Hello, my friends. I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy, coming to you live if you're watching us live, and on YouTube if you're watching us later. This is show number 19 in the series, and today is November 20th, my wife's birthday. I should be taking her shopping, but she's out shopping by herself. That's a pretty good deal for me. Anyway, welcome to the show. As you remember, that VidBlaster guy, the whole premise of the show is that one guy with one PC can do one awesome broadcast. Now, I'm one guy and I'm using one PC and I'm kind of working on the one awesome broadcast part, and we're making incremental improvements. If you've ever done this, you know we can have great big dreams, but it takes a while to achieve those, kind of one step at a time things. Today's show is going to be on VidBlaster version 2.27. Typically, our shows are organized around three major themes. Either folks that are doing internet TV talk shows, kind of like this one. Folks that are doing sports broadcasting, football, soccer, basketball, baseball, whatever. And then folks that are broadcasting their church services. And those are the sort of the three themes that we work with, although we diverge from those themes on occasion as needed. But today we're going to talk about VidBlaster 2.27. Now, if you're not familiar with VidBlaster or not familiar with 2.27, 2.27 is an official release. Now, VidBlaster does things a little differently than some other outfits. The developer behind VidBlaster, Mike Versteeg, has a basic premise that when he releases a beta version, that is something that probably isn't ready for prime time but has some features in it that he wants people to experiment with it, he opens it up to anybody and everybody. Anybody that wants to can go download the latest beta version. You can't download the old beta versions because obviously they've been improved upon and there's no sense downloading something that is even better now. But you could download and experiment with the latest beta. And then you could go to the forum and give feedback on that latest beta if you found problems with it or improvements that you would suggest. And it's a wonderful community that VidBlaster has developed into, and I'm happy to have that VidBlaster Guy show as part of that community as a way to sort of take things that get recognized in the VidBlaster forum and play with them a little bit, massage them, and bring them to you to share. So we've come to the official release, 2.27. The last release was in October 2011, 2.09. And if you think about it, 2.09, 2.10, I'm not going to go through all of them. But that's, what is that, 18 or 8? That would be 18 different versions. Beta versions. Well, actually, 2 of those were OEM versions. So 16 different versions of VidBlaster have been put out for people to look at. And now we have 2.27. 2.27 has, got to get my crib sheet here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major improvements or major new features since 2.09. Now, we can have discussion about, what's a major feature upgrade or what's a major feature and what's an upgrade. But I think all 5 of these are worthy of mention, and we're going to go back and unpack those in just a minute. The first one that came out and has been constantly improved since then is the RTSP, RTMP In module. Now, I got to admit, I don't have a clue what those codes with those acronyms mean. I could, if I looked it up and told you what the words were, I still wouldn't know what it meant. But essentially, it's a code that computers use that represent the stream, audio-visual stream, over the internet. That's a pretty loose definition, but that's kind of the best I could see. Oh, hey, Ken. I see my buddy Ken out in the chat room. Glad to have you. And I lost my whole train of thought at that point. Boy, the train just derails right on off the track, full speed. The new module allows you to take a video audio feed from a different broadcast, maybe CNN, maybe something from Ustream, and bring that into VidBlaster and either rebroadcast it live or record it if you just wanted to record it, or even put it on a delay. You could use the video replay module, I think that's version 2, and set it on a 30-second delay if you didn't want to be broadcasting it live. And there are lots of possibilities with that. I just see all sorts of creative ways to use that if you can get that RTSP or RTMP code. Now, obviously, if you have the permission from the folks that are doing the streaming, then there are probably ways that you can get that. If not from them, then from their streaming partner. And in fact, I've got a little demo I've done up of this. Let me go ahead and cue that up, because I think that will do a better job than me just trying to ad-lib it. So let me get this cued here, and we'll go to this demo / tutorial. More really demo than tutorial. Hi, I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy. Really excited about the new version of VidBlaster, version 2.27, which is also a release version. It's a trial version and a release version all wrapped up into one, and it's got some great new features. But the feature I want to tell you about right now is this little module right here, the RTSP RTMP In module. And the exciting thing about that is that it allows you to grab a live feed that's being streamed over the internet and bring it into VidBlaster. Now think about that just a minute. It means that somebody out in another part of the world, another part of the country, another part of town can be streaming something, and if you have the availability to get to that code for that stream, then you can pull that stream into VidBlaster. Remote reporters, broadcasts from other games in the same league, football, soccer, basketball, whatever. Think about all the different ways you could bring in remote hosts if you don't have Skype available, all sorts of great stuff. And this is how it works. It's really pretty simple. I have a secret code that I'll share with you in just a second that allows me to pick up a Ustream feed and bring that into VidBlaster, and I'm going to actually be streaming what you're looking at right now. So let me start that. That's in Ustream, and I'm going to come down to my RTSP RTMP module here right below my chin, and I'm going to right click it. The top command there is URL, and that's where I'll put in the special code that I get. The second command is start, to start the stream. Third command is stop, to stop the stream. Transition is like all the other modules. It allows you to do a hard cut or a fast dissolve or a medium dissolve or a slow dissolve. Aspect ratio, I can change it if I've got a 4.3 aspect ratio in the stream that I'm stealing, but I'm doing widescreen, then I can change that here. Audio device means I've got to pick up the sound from whatever this is, and in this case I've selected my speakers. The buffer size, if you're having some problems with an intermittent connection or not a good solid stream, you can make a buffer on your end and it'll fill up your buffer, and that way you'll get a nice smooth stream. Buffers go from 0.1 second to 5 seconds. And then display size allows you to change the size of this display from its default size to 25%, 50%, or 100% of the stream size. So we're just simply, since we've already input our URL, that's it right there, we're going to click Start, and we're going to pick up this feed from Ustream. Oh, and there it is. You can see it's appearing in the little window. The aspect ratio here is actually not correct. I'm going to put this feed right here for just a second. When I do, I'm picking up Ustream, which is picking up me, which is picking up Ustream, which is picking up me. You know how that works. And so what you're going to see is this get smaller and smaller and smaller because it's not full size. So let's go ahead and activate that module. And there we are on Ustream. Now we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, as I predicted. Obviously, that won't happen if you're not taking a feed from your own feed. It's like looking in a mirror, looking in a mirror. Same principle. But the possibilities with this are really limitless. Now, one of the cool things is here's a code that you can go to get, if there's a live Ustream feed, you can get the Ustream feed code by going to that website, putting in the Ustream broadcast name, the channel name, and then it'll give you a long code, probably 120 characters, something like that, that you can put in to the URL portion right down here in the module. URL, yeah, it's not going to let us change the URL right now because we're already streaming. And so copy that down, http://piseui.webear.net/ustream.php. And that will give you the ability to get a Ustream feed. And as I figure out what some of the other codes are and how we can figure out what those are, I'll share those with you in an upcoming broadcast of that VidBlaster Guy. Thanks for watching. All right, and back to live. And I appreciate the comments from the chat room about the audio. We're glad to have all you guys with us today. We need to figure out a way to get some ladies on the show. I guess they're all busy working. That was the RTMP, RTSP. I think there are all sorts of cool possibilities with that, of borrowing pieces from other people's shows while they're doing it. I think there are huge community involvement possibilities, probabilities on it, and we will continue to follow the improvements to that. And if you come up with some cool ideas, I hope you'll share them either with me directly by email, which of course you're always welcome to do, or through the VidBlaster forum, which is forum.vidblaster.com. You'd think with all these computers and stuff I could figure out a way to make that appear above my head, but I haven't gotten that. I guess I just did it in that demo though, didn't I? Anyway, go figure. One of the other things that was a really interesting addition to VidBlaster is the MPEG Recorder. And while video is not the thing that I am most knowledgeable about, I really am most knowledgeable about the streaming and the sports side of it, but I'm beginning to get some expertise in some of those other areas. What I understand about MPEG is that it's a format that once it's saved in that format, then it can be translated to a DVD much more rapidly than something that would have to be re-encoded in order to be changed as a DVD. I think I've got that right. If not, I'm expecting folks to correct me. The nice thing about the MPEG Recorder, I think, is that since a lot of times you're using that in a situation where you might be either streaming and recording, or just recording high definition, sometimes there's a delay. The PC, struggling to get all those video pixels changed to whatever they have to change to, sometimes slows the video so the audio gets ahead of the video. When that happens, you get a Chinese movie, and that's no fun. But the MPEG Recorder allows you to set a delay in it. So you can delay the audio slightly to sync up. Now, obviously, you'd have to test that in advance and make sure you had your sync correct. But it would do that. And the other nice thing about it is in the broadcast. Now, remember, VidBlaster has 4 different editions. Don't get editions and versions confused. We're talking about version 2.27. But, for example, I'm using edition broadcast, the broadcast edition, which is the top level of the software. And in the broadcast edition, I can have unlimited, at least as many as my PC will support, unlimited MPEG recorders. So if I'm running, say for example, I'm running 4 cameras, and maybe it's a talk show with lots of guests, maybe it's a church service where I've got different aspects of the church service, or a sports broadcast where I've got several different cameras, I can put an MPEG recorder for each one of those cameras. So I can record separate recordings on each cam. And then later, if I want to go back and do something with it, I can do that. I've had a lot of people ask that question over the years, and the answer has generally been, no, you can't do that with VidBlaster. Well, now you can. Again, I'm not sure why you would want to, but you might. And if you did, if it was a feature that was important to you, then absolutely, positively, it's there. I brought the MPEG recorder up on the screen here, and let's do a little screen capture. And in fact, I'm going to screen cap and go a little tighter in, I think, so that we don't confuse the issue. And let's go right onto the MPEG recorder itself. Right there. How about that? Oh, I got the side of it out, but you get the basic idea. Actually, we want to do more than that because we want to be able to see the drop-down menus. So let's get a little bit more of the screen. There you go. Now you've got, oh, and you've got me down there on my green screen. Okay, that's the MPEG recorder right up there above me. And it's got buttons to record, stop, play, and save. Obviously, those are pretty self-explanatory. But and the little red tally light there says that what does it say? Are we recording right now? No, we're not recording. Anyway, right-click. We can record and save uncompressed. We can save to a temporary folder. Or you know what? Sorry, folks. That was the recorder module. That's why it's red, because that's the module that I'm using right now. That's the MPEG recorder. Boy, don't I feel foolish. Gee whiz. You'd think an expert would know better. The MPEG recorder has got record, stop, and save buttons. Oop, there we go. That's what happened before. We'll pull that over so that doesn't happen again. And we can set the source. So let's set the source for video effect 2. That's what I'm doing right there. And the quality, we've got choices of master and DVD, and sorry, I don't know the difference. The source we just set, the audio device, we're going to use the Behringer. And audio input, master volume, we're not going to change that. Temporary folder. If I wanted to save this onto a scratch drive, this is where I would designate my scratch drive. Display size allows me to change the size of the display so that if I want to be able to see it more clearly, I can. And here's the audio delay in milliseconds, and you could do a video delay in frames if you wanted to. The info allows while it's running so that you can see what the stats are on it, and then of course remove modules. So let's just tell it to record here for, well, we better tell it an audio device. We did that. Okay. So let's tell it to record here, and there we are, and you can see that we can see our audio level at the same time. If we come down to the info module, and let me pull that up here in the screen where we can save it. We can see that we're recording 864 by 480, 25 frames a second. That's true. It's dropped no frames. It has no overflows and no underflows. Overflows and underflows are important because if you're stressing the PC and maxing out a core, then that's when you end up with glitches and bumps and bruises in your video, and this is how you would go back and statistically know that. So we've got that. So, oops, and our recorder went back on top. And we're going to tell it to stop. Oh, there's also a pause button there. How about that? And we're going to save this as junk, and later on we'll go back and erase it. But that's the MPEG recorder, and we can have as many of them as we want. I'm going to remove that module, and we'll go back here. Let's see. Oh. The third big change, and this is not a change in features, but rather in kind of in access to features. Prior to what version was it? I've got it in my version notes here. In 2.18, prior to that, the API, I think that's an application programming language, but again, don't quote me on that. VidBlaster's API prior to that was only available in the broadcast version. As of version 2.18 and all subsequent versions, including 2.27, the API is available in the studio version. Now, the studio version is also the trial version. So if you are a home or pro user and want to give the API a shot, go to a PC that does not already have VidBlaster installed on it, download 2.27. It'll be the trial version, which will be the studio version, and you can see everything you need to see about the API. The API, again, I'm not a programmer. This is not my area of expertise, but my understanding is that the API allows you to control VidBlaster remotely, either by a program like Telnet, where you could go in and actively give VidBlaster commands to change cameras or run the instant replay or do any number of things. Or you could set up a series of routines, some apps, as you might call them, even do apps on your smartphone that would allow for remote control of VidBlaster. There are a few apps out there. If you go to the forum and search for, API, I think is probably the best place to start. You can get some more information on those apps. There was one that allowed remote control of cameras and players, starting and stopping players. There was one that allowed a special control on the video replay version 2, and there were a few others. That's something that I want to explore personally in the future, because I think it would be great to be able to develop some, kind of outside of VidBlaster applications that would allow you to do all sorts of customized things. In fact, that was one of the questions that I got yesterday from somebody wanting to know if there was a way to remotely start VidBlaster. Well, that's a good question. I don't know that the API would do that, but I think there probably are some other ways to start a program remotely and then let the API take over to control VidBlaster. And I'm going to do a little Q&A session here at the end of our session today, and we'll take some more of those questions. So the API, the application programming language, is now available in the studio version, which is the trial version. So if you want to play with it, find a PC that doesn't have VidBlaster on it, because you can't make VidBlaster revert back to the trial version. If you've got an installed licensed version, then that's the version you have. You can't go backwards. Oh yes, it is the edition, not the version. Sorry about that. We've got to keep those words clear, because edition refers to home, pro, studio, and broadcast, and version refers to the version number. Thank you, Jan in the chat room, keeping me on the mark. The other got two more. The fourth major change, I think, to VidBlaster from 2.09 to 2.27 was the new VVD. Now, VVD is not a disease, so we're not going to even go there on that one. It's an acronym for Virtual Video Device. VidBlaster previously had a virtual video device in the streamer. So you could tell the streamer, don't stream to Ustream, don't stream to Flash Media Live Encoder, stream to VVD, Virtual Video Device, and we'll let the other programs think that the VVD is a camera, and so we can pick up the video feed from the VVD for Flash Media Live Encoder or Ustream or Bamboozer or whatever we want. And so the VVD was a very effective way of sharing your video or providing a method for streaming your video, rather. That's a better way of saying it. But some of the programs changed. Ustream changed. Skype was another one that you could use the VidBlaster VVD as a video source in Skype, and then Skype changed and it didn't work anymore. And the same thing happened to Wirecast, and I think was it their desktop presenter or something like that. They had a method of getting the video into Skype, and it stopped working. And for a while there, really nothing worked. And then last summer, when was it? I don't have a date on it, but the new 2.1 version 2.19, the new virtual video device came out, and that allowed you to again stream to Skype and stream to Ustream and some others. But more importantly than that, it came out in a new module, the Video Out module. And let me see, let me do a little quick screen capture here, and we can show you about the Video Out module. And let's pull it in, there we go. And this is it right here, the Video Out module. Now obviously what you're seeing here is what we're streaming, so we've kind of got that looking in a mirror effect. But we've got a source, which in this case is our video switcher, the program, so that's the main screen in VidBlaster. And then we have a source, the VidBlaster VVD. But you notice I'm running a PC with, well, you don't notice this, but I promise you it's true. I'm running a PC with two monitors, a primary monitor that I've got VidBlaster on, and then a secondary monitor where I've got the chat room and Flash Media Live Encoder and you know, some other notes and things like that I'm doing. And all of that is on my second monitor where I can see it. But if I wanted to take the program window and send it out to a monitor, I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to do it now, but I could send it out to a second or third monitor. You say, okay, why would you want to do that? Let's talk about that use of the VVD. Why would you want to take the program that we've got right here and send it out to a second monitor? Well, there are lots of possibilities with that. In sports, for sure, there's a monitor that you can put in front of your announcers so they can see the game, not just the live game, but when you run a replay, they can announce the replay as it's happening. In a church environment, what greater way to include the folks that can't be in the sanctuary during the service, you know, the folks that are working in the nursery or other areas like that where they've got youngsters, or overflow areas or lobby foyer areas where you can have a big screen TV and have what's going on inside showing up on the big screen. You would use that on the video out module, and we can talk more about the hardware for that later. But so far as VidBlaster is concerned, that's how you would get that out, by using the video out module. The video out module also allows you to have a camera source for Skype or a camera source for Ustream. Currently, right now, I'm actually using the VVD to take this screen and send it to Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder. So in Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder, let's pop over to that one for a second. I'll show you what it looks like right there. Let me get a little screen capture going here. I generally like to do all this stuff pre-programmed, but you know, it's kind of fun when it's live too. So this is part of my Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder screen, and you can see here at video, and we're currently streaming, so all this is kind of grayed out. Our device is the VidBlaster VVD. And you can also see my other presets. Whoops, I'm streaming it through 30 frames a second. I thought it was 25. Oh well, guess that means everybody's getting a little smoother feed today. So that's where you would select the VidBlaster VVD in Flash Media Live Encoder. Same thing on Skype. It would just appear on your list of cameras as VidBlaster VVD. If you've been installing VidBlaster for the first time, I know with some of the versions of VidBlaster, the VVD didn't always install properly the first time, and so you would have to uninstall that version, then reinstall it, and that would sort of trigger the VVD to install properly. So if you're having troubles with it, that's a troubleshooting tip that you might want to try right off the top of the head. It's a great little program, and it passes the video through beautifully. And if, for example, let's see, let me make sure that there are not some limitations on that. I think there may be a limitation on, let me look it up real quick for you guys, or maybe somebody knows off the top of their head if the VVD is available in all the versions. Let's look here. Video output of any video source. Yes, so it's not available in the home version, but it's available in the Pro, Studio, and Broadcast editions. Editions. Not available in the home edition. But the old VVD is still available in the home edition, and that does work with some programs. I've used that sometimes when I've had to. The last, and probably from my perspective as a sports guy, the most exciting of the upgrades, updates, and new features to VidBlaster version 2.27 has been the third, what would you call it? Not edition, not version. The third, we'll call it the third version because my vocabulary escapes me. The third version of the video replay. And I know as someone that's lobbied long and hard with folks at VidPlay, enhancement, incarnation, yeah, those are suggestions from the chat room. You guys are paying attention. That's nice. The third incarnation of the video replay allowed for some significant changes. Number one, I think, was the ability to do slow motion instant replay. I mean, down to like a frame a second. Really, really good stuff. It required a major rewrite, and so a lot of work went into it. And in fact, it's not a done deal. It's not finished. It was supposed to be a 3-module combination, and 2 of the modules have been written, and 1 module has yet to be written. Works as a major controller that controls the whole slow motion instant replay, and is sort of where everything gets recorded and changed and shifted. And then a second module that is a source for the controller module, and the source module hooks up with the camera module, assuming that you're taking a camera as your instant replay. I guess you could do a player, but I don't know why. But you could have any source for it, and constantly records that source, to the point that not only, you remember with the old instant replay, you recorded the last 30 seconds and was sort of a rolling 30 seconds. And once the 30 seconds had expired, you couldn't go back and get that replay anymore. Well, now it records forever until your hard drive is full. And we'll talk about that too. And so you can go back in time a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half an hour, 2 hours, and go pull out a clip, or not really pull out a clip, sorry, that's the wrong verbiage, and designate a clip in the controller module so that you know now the controller module knows where to go back and copy that clip from, so that it can play it whenever you need it played. The third type module that has not yet been developed for video replay is the video replay player module. And that's going to be the module that allows you to take a clip and save it. And I think if you've got multiple clips stacked up, to be able to reorder them, and then kind of a playlist idea, so that if you were taking instant replays of highlights of the first half of the first period, and at the halftime or the period break you wanted to show those as sort of a 45-second montage of the first half, you would use this yet unbuilt module to do that. Now you can still play them, but you can't play them in the way that ultimately it's designed. I've got a little demo on that. I did this one a while back, but I thought since we were doing kind of an overview of VidBlaster 2.27 that I probably needed to go ahead and include all the information in one place, so that if you're looking later for, what's the difference, anyway, here it would be. So let's take a look at this video replay enhancement version incarnation 3 and see how it goes. Hang on one second here and we'll get this rascal going. Hi, this is Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy, coming to you with another tutorial about VidBlaster. This one is a tutorial on using VidBlaster's new Video Replay System 3, or what you and I might call Instant Replay with Slo-Motion. I've downloaded from the VidBlaster forum the latest beta of VidBlaster version 2.24, and by the way, you can download it yourself at forum.vidblaster.com. I've installed it on my hard drive, and the first time I bring it up, I see in front of me the default window. There's the program module, the audio module, the streamer module, 2 player modules, one with video and one with a graphic, a video overlay module, and a camera module. I'm going to maximize this window because I want to make a few adjustments to make things a little easier to see. The first thing I want to do is increase the resolution of VidBlaster to 640 by 360, which is going to change the size of the program module so we can see it a little more easily. The second thing I'm going to do, since I don't have a game in front of me, I'm going to load up the player module with a game that I've pre-recorded, actually something I borrowed off the internet, and it's a little Pee-wee football game. I'm going to make some adjustments to the player module to tell it to auto-rewind, play on take, to loop, and we're going to cut the volume down to 0 because we're not interested in what their volume is, and we'll go ahead and get that going there. And then I'm going to add some other modules. First of all, I'm going to add Video Replay 3 Replay Controller. That's the heart of the replay system. And then, since I have one source, which right now is the player module, which could be a camera module as well, I'm going to add a replay source module. And first off, I'm going to tell my replay source module to use the player 1. You see, I could use the camera if I had a camera hooked up to the game. I'm also going to tell it I want a temporary folder to be my terabyte hard drive, which is my second drive in this system. I've got an SSD as the main drive. So we're going to let it use the terabyte hard drive as a temporary folder. And I'm going to change my display size to 50%, again, so it's a little easier to see. Also, since the instant replay, the video replay system requires the video switcher to be used most of the time, I'm going to add the video switcher module. If you have VidBlaster Home or VidBlaster Pro, this will not work for you, but I do have a workaround for that we'll talk about at the end of this tutorial. So I've got the replay source set up as player 1, temporary folder set up as my terabyte hard drive, display size set up as 50%. Over here in the replay controller, you can see I've got a series of numbers here across the top. The left-hand bank of numbers is basically my in and out times. It tells me where I am when I'm looking for something to make a replay of. It tells me where I am in the video. The right-hand bank of numbers is the cumulative time clock. The bar right here below it allows me to go back in time or forward in time to mark the in and out points of my clip. Here are my in and out buttons. The live button in the middle basically is the go button, and so we're going to go ahead and tell it to go. Start recording to the hard drive everything that comes through the player 1 module, and so it's beginning to do that. Down here as we continue to go through what our different sections are. The clip basically tells us what our clip is, clip number 1, clip number 2, which we can rename to anything we want. IN is in, that's our end point, and that tells us in time when is our end point. And then the S over here is for seconds, that tells us the duration of the clip. Down here, the play button is where we can play the clip. Stop stops the clip. And if we had more than one source, we would choose our sources down here. The very bottom button, this is my most favorite button of all. This is the button that allows us to slow down the replay. So I'm going to position it about halfway through right now. And let's go ahead and find a clip. We've got 54 seconds worth of game already sort of recorded in our replay source over here. So let's grab this little bar, and eventually VidBlaster will come with the ability to hook up to a separate controller that'll allow y'all to do that with a jog shuttle. Let's see, let's drag it back and see if we can find a good play right there. That's a good stopping point. You notice the replay source backed up to 1 minute 6 seconds, but we're still going live up here in the program window at 1 minute 30 seconds. Let's mark this point right here as an end point, and then we'll move this slightly to the right. Go ahead and let our play out, and then we'll click an out point. So now we have a clip, and then we'll go back to live. So we're recording. That looks like that might be an interesting play right there. Let's make a recording of that one. That was about 1 minute 50. Go right about there, and we'll stop, mark an end point, pull it to the right to go forward, and that's the out point right there. So we'll click out. Now we've got 2 clips recorded. Clip number 1, clip number 2. Let's rename it, and we're just going to name it, oh, golly, let's say it's Tom's touchdown. Not really, but it could be. And the next one is going to be Fred's touchdown. So we've got those recorded right there. And let's say we've reached a timeout and we want to go back and take a look at what we just had. We can queue up this clip and get it playing, switch over, and now we're talking about our instant replay. There it is, slow motion. I can take the slow motion controller down here at the bottom and I can slow it up because we want to see if the ball pops out, or I can bring it back up to regular speed. And you notice the clip played right through my stop point. That is one advantage to it, is you can record actually more than what's there in the initial clip. Let's stop that one. We'll go back to live action. And now let's say we've come up to another point where we want to play our second replay. So let's get that one queued up right here. We'll tell it to play. We'll switch to replay. This is the replay. We can fast forward a little bit. We can slow up. At this point, we can't go back in time, but we can almost go frame by frame, which can be a lot of fun. And then by clicking the player module, we can go back to the live action. This is going to be a lot of fun to use. It's going to be great. As you can tell, it takes a little bit extra effort to master this. And it also may be the kind of thing where you need somebody over your shoulder watching what's going on in the game to help you figure out when a good point to play a replay is going to be, or you can save them all for halftime. Now, if you have VidBlaster Home or VidBlaster Pro and you don't have the video switcher available, let's remove that module. We can use the video effect module, and actually you can do this with all of them. And we'll just simply set up the replay controller as our source. And this is going to be a source overlay. So now anything that appears in the replay controller, let's see, let's queue up clip number 1. You see how the video effect is now matching whatever's in the replay source. So let's start the replay, and then we'll start the video effect. And you see now anything that's in video effect, replay source, is now in the program module. If we speed it up, it'll
speed up. If we slow it down, it'll slow down. And then we can simply go back to live action by clicking live action. And that's using the video effect module. So, actually, you can use a video effect module instead of using the video switcher if you have the studio or the broadcast versions as well. This has been a demonstration of the VidBlaster new Video Replay System 3. For more information about this, you can tune into that VidBlaster Guy or shoot me an email. But that VidBlaster Guy appears, we are live on the internet every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern at thatvidblasterguy.com. We welcome you to join us. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, folks, as you can see, that was something that we put together a while back, and some good questions have popped up about it in the chat room, and I'll take the ones that, I'll take the easy ones first. How about that? The question was, will the instant replay do a cut or a dissolve? And yes, it will. As you saw in the video, there are two different ways of this little pen here. Sorry, that was a little distracting to me. Probably was to you too. I'll put it down. There are two ways of taking the contents of the instant replay module and displaying it on the screen. One was to use the switcher, if you have the version studio, or excuse me, the edition, broadcast edition or the studio edition, or if you have the home edition or the pro edition, or actually any of the editions, you can use the video effect module. Now, built into the video effect module is the ability to do a hard cut or a slow, medium, or fast transition. Not really a dissolve. Let's see if I can set one up here, and let's see, transition, dissolve slow. I'm going to dissolve into green screen. And to go back, I'm going to set it up for a hard cut. So there's your hard cut. There's your, not really a dissolve. I guess you could call it a dissolve. The fact that it's the same picture makes it a little hard to see. I'm just going to pick this one because it's here and available. And there's a dissolve to a different, and we'll have a hard cut back to that one. And I'm getting clarification in the chat room about, oh, I see, I started with part 2 of a 2-part question. All right, the first part of the question was, if you have multiple cameras running, can you, during the course of playing back a replay, can you switch from camera to camera within that playback? And in the old instant replays, you could do that. If you had it, yeah, you could just switch from camera to camera at any point that you wanted to. At this point, that is not yet programmed in, if I understand it correctly. At least not the way I think it's being asked as a question in the chat room. So you would have to be able to queue it up a little separately. Good question though, and one that I need to find the answer to. It's funny when you add a new feature and you have you know, all this great possibilities. Well, those great possibilities give birth to other great possibilities, and it's like, well, if we can do this, then let's do this. And if we can do that, then let's do this other thing. And before you know it, we've got a whole different creature coming about. But really good questions. Now, one thing, having operated this for more than just a few minutes on a demo, I realized that if you're saving every minute of video on 3 cameras, that you are going to run into hard drive limitations. And so my recommendation is, if you're doing this, that you really want a scratch drive for each camera, at least 500 gigs. I'm going to be experimenting here in a few weeks with setting up some instant replay, a PC that has some solid state drives, one for each camera. It'll be a little expensive, but but I want to see how it's going to be in terms of response. I know I like the response of the solid state drive. And so you want to, if you're going to do this for more than, you know, just a 10 or 15 minute play toy, if you want to use it for a football game or a basketball game, you really need to have a hard drive dedicated for each camera as a source for the instant replay. I think that's going to be the best way to do it. One of the other things that I realized in using this is that, especially in its current state, which is phase 1, but not completed, is that it's a little cumbersome, especially if you're using a mouse to do everything that needs to be done. It is being designed with the thought of using a sort of a jog shuttle kind of separate device to make the process a lot easier and less cumbersome, but that's not done yet. So for the time being, it is a little difficult. I'm not sure how much easier it's going to get when it's finished, but I do see the possibility of spinning the instant replay off to a separate PC and using that PC as the instant replay source, or as a camera source, which just happens to be instant replay for the main broadcast PC. And if that's the case, then that would require a license, a VidBlaster license for each one of the PCs. VidBlaster is kind of interesting in the way it does the licenses. The license is not like a Microsoft license or some of the other software you might be used to using, where the license kind of goes with the PC. With VidBlaster, it's more like a driver's license, where the license goes with the operator, with the individual. So I have the license to this broadcast version. And it's okay with the developer of VidBlaster if I install this software on multiple PCs, as long as I'm not using more than one of them at one time. Hence the terminology VidBlaster Guy, one PC, one guy, one PC, one awesome broadcast. The idea is within the license of me using one PC on the broadcast. At some point I may experiment with a second PC. If that's the case, I need to get a second license for it. But I could see where you might have one PC set up with a broadcast license and then a separate PC that's doing a different function like instant replay that would be set up with maybe a pro version license, or a less expensive license for that reason. Question in the chat room, can I pause, reverse the replay as it's going through the switcher? Absolutely, yes, you can reverse it. I know you can pause it. I'm not sure if you can reverse it. That's a good question. Appreciate that question. We need to find out. I know with the old one you could. With this one, I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I'll have to look at that. And I can't set up a demo for it right now. It would be, the likelihood of me getting it right would be pretty diminished. I want to get into some questions here. One of the questions that I got earlier, and by the way, that wraps up our overview of version 2.27 in the various editions that VidBlaster comes in. And I did promise that I would address some questions. One of the questions I got by email the other day, which I thought was a really good question, and where do you go to find out the answers to questions like this? But the question was, they had a camera module, and they wanted to make it larger so that they could see it more easily from their chair if they were set back or something like that. How would they do that? Well, in the newer, remember there are two different versions of the camera module, version 1 and version 2. In the version 2 module, you can actually adjust the size of the module itself, and you can make it as large as whatever the video feed is. So in this case it would be 864 by 480, or it could be 50%, which would be that much, and then 25%, and then regular module size. You lose some of the ability to get the start and stop controls and things like that when you do it, but basically you just click on the module to turn it on, and then click on another module to go to that module. So it's really pretty easy. And that would work with the camera module, the instant replay 1 and 2 module, the RTSP module, and also the MPEG Recorder module. So you can resize those modules. It's not a drag and drop. It's a right click on the module and then select display sides. So great question there. Also, a question came out about Windows 8. Now there's a can of worms if there ever was one. Is VidBlaster compatible with Windows 8? Well, let me be really careful in my answer because I don't want to mislead anybody. And let me be as clear as I possibly can. VidBlaster was not written for Windows 8. VidBlaster has not been tested with Windows 8, at least not by Mike Versteeg and the folks at VidBlaster. I know some folks have played with it, but it has not been tested. There are some isolated, I guess they're isolated, I don't know, probably they're isolated, but some anecdotal evidence that there are some audio inconsistencies. I think Martin has reported that on a client's machine. I've had somebody report it to me on a client's machine where the audio was not available for selection in the audio module. Well, you got to have audio in the audio module if you're going to stream or if you're going to record, because that's how VidBlaster knows what audio to get. So that's a pretty significant problem. The one that I'm most familiar with, it was actually an intermittent problem. It would work sometimes, but not other times, and nobody seemed to be able to figure out what was the trigger to make it work or make it not work, and they were pulling their hair out. So at this point, the safe statement is to say that VidBlaster was not designed to work with Windows 8. Now we do know that Windows 8, basically is Windows 7 with some other stuff added on, but that doesn't guarantee that it's going to work. I intend to test it myself. Maybe over the holidays, have some time to play with that, and I'll report back. But if you're doing a crucial broadcast, stick with Windows 7. That's my best guess. One thing that happened to me today that almost happened to me today that I thought I would pass along if you haven't heard this already. This is one of those notes that you want to put under how to save my own life when streaming. Let's say you're going out on a gig, you're going to do a game or open up VidBlaster and start a church service or your own talk show, and Windows pops up and says, we have updates. There are all sorts of great updates. They're warm and fuzzy and they're hot and fresh from the oven. Come, install our updates. Don't do that. Please. No telling what's in those updates. No telling if they're going to make something not work that used to work, or make something work differently than it used to. Especially with audio would be my guess, but it could be video too. Pick a time later when you've got time to troubleshoot if there's a problem, and install the updates. In fact, go into the guts of Windows and tell it, don't do automatic updates. You can download them, but don't install them without me telling you it's okay. So if you haven't made that change to your streaming PC, you definitely want to do it. I've had lots of calls from folks that are saying, my VidBlaster doesn't work. Do you have automatic updates? Well, yeah. Well, is it like the Wednesday after the first Tuesday of the month when Microsoft puts out their big updates? Well, yeah. Well, then maybe you got snagged by the update monster. So don't get snagged by the update monster. That will save your life. And folks in the chat room are saying, yeah, I'd learned that one the hard way. In fact, I think Sheldon and I may have got that from you. Oh, yeah, and somebody else, Jan, is pointing out in the chat room to don't automatically download it either, because it might start downloading while you're streaming. That's a really good point. Really good point, Jan. Jan saves my life on this stuff all the time. I would also say, as a kind of a corollary to this Windows update thing, don't install new hardware or new software and then start a broadcast. Very likely that something has changed when you did that, and you want to make sure that you have a chance to go through your entire VidBlaster profile, make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to before you go on air. the last thing you want is to find out that the video card you put in made some sort of change to the registry that, made the sound card not work or something crazy like that. I just got a new card in the mail yesterday. That came FedEx, actually. And I can't wait to put it in. I thought, oh, well, I'll just put it in before the broadcast. And I was like, no, I'm not smart enough to be able to do that. So save your own life and the life of a friend, and don't let friends don't let friends install new hardware right before a broadcast. Actually, this is what I got. See if I can bring it in. And this was on the advice of Jim Moline, who said that he has installed this Avermedia, is that how you pronounce it? Video capture in HD digital video recorder for your PC. Well, we'll see. But Jim swears that even though it's designed as a one video input card, that you can actually use it to input two videos, one by component, if your camera has a component out, and one by composite. So I'm going to be testing that. But Jim has two of these in a PC. Jim was on a show, 2 shows ago, and you can go back and look at show 15 or no, show 17, and he talks about this card in there. So I thought I'd give it a try. One of the nice things about it is if it's it was $110 from Newegg.com. I like Newegg, and it came quickly. If that's the case, it's going to give me 2 cams. Jim's running 2 of these cards, so he's got 4 cams. So for $200, you've got the equivalent, maybe, of an Osprey 460E, which is a 4-port standard definition capture card. Well, geez, 200 versus 800, kind of a no-brainer there. So I'm going to give it a check, and I'll let you know. Obviously, I've only got 1 card now, but we'll have to get another one in here. I also bought some other stuff that I'll be installing and testing, and I'm not going to tell you about it until I'm sure it works. So we're about to the end of our time here. Let's see if anybody in the chat room has got some questions. Nope, but there's lots of good advice in the chat room. Will VidBlaster work with Blackmagic Intensity Shuttle for USB 3.0? And immediately in the chat room, as soon as the question was answered, 2 other folks in the chat room jumped in and said yes, yes. But I'll tell you, having played with Blackmagic stuff in the past, don't install it 10 minutes before your broadcast and expect it to work without having time to troubleshoot it and test it. And I think everybody would agree with that one. Yep. Folks, it's been my pleasure to bring this broadcast to you today of VidBlaster version 2.27. If you are interested in VidBlaster and you don't already own a license, I'm a licensed reseller, or excuse me, an authorized reseller, under the name of Sinclair Sports Network, which is our kind of our boutique sports broadcasting company. And I'd be delighted to not only sell you a license, but give you my email address, my Skype address, and my cell phone number, so you can reach out to me when you need support. You're welcome, too, to go back and visit our archives and see all the other shows and the other tips and tricks section in the archives of what we've done in the past. And it's a lot of fun. So somebody's else. One more question. Can I use 3 of the Blackmagic intensities at one time? Well, I think he's talking about the USB 3.0, the intensity shuttle. And I think the question will be that you can, but there's an asterisk next to that. Yes, you can, which is it probably depends on your USB ports, and my guess would be that 2 USB ports may be served by 1 USB controller, and my guess is that you're not going to be able to get 2 3.0 Intensity Pro shuttles on the same USB controller. So as long as you can identify where your controllers are and just do 1 per controller, you can probably get that. And the comment to that was, I want to live dangerously and use it on an iMac 2012. Well, you're losing you're losing me on that one. On behalf of all the folks here at that VidBlaster Guy, which is me, thanks for tuning in today. It's been a treat to be with you. If you're live, hang around for the post show. And otherwise, we'll see you next week on that VidBlaster Guy. Oh, golly, you know, that was such a nice little exit, but I didn't have my post-show credits already set up and ready to go. Isn't that funny? Okay, well, let's try them now.